Hello, everyone. You are listening to the latest Flyers Talk podcast. I am Jordan Hall, and I am thrilled to be joined by the wonderful Brooke Destra. Brooke, hockey is back.
Woo!
Hockey is back. The Flyers open training camp bright and early Thursday. Their first preseason game is on Monday. So the guys will be back on the ice, and there's another season to look forward to. So for this rebuilding team, we're going to look at three storylines, Brooke, going into training camp from 3 to 1. I know a rebuild maybe isn't the most exciting thing, but there's still plenty of intrigue. I think every season always is interesting, good or bad. So let's look at those storylines. Brooke, I'll start with you. Your third storyline to watch going into training camp. What is it?
Yeah, well, first of all, I kind of feel like, this is my favorite time of the year for a plethora of reasons. But when you know, like, you can sense that you're coming back to the rink, you're just like, ooh, like, it's time. Like, you're ready. I don't care if it's a rebuild or not. It's just, it's a fresh season. It's fresh perspectives. It's new players. It's new faces, especially going into this season. So I think that we really do have a lot to look forward to, even in a rebuild year. And I just feel like we're finally like over the hump. Like, I feel like that August, early September is the worst when you are getting ready for hockey season. Like, at one point you're like, all right, like, I'm ready to go. And we still have so much time left. So it's such a relief we'll be back at the skate zone in Voorhees, getting geared up for the season. So that alone, I'm very excited for. But instead of my ramble, let's dive into my storyline.
It was a good ramble.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
August really did drag, right? And
it really did.
It does feel like it's finally here. And before you know it, every day there's going to be something happening with the Flyers or hockey related things. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I am geared up. I'm really excited. Which is something odd to say with a rebuild, but I don't care. I'm going to say it. I'm excited. Lots of changes are happening in a good way. La-di-da.
Brooke is team rebuild. You heard it here, team rebuild. And she's going to get into that. I know that.
Yeah. Woohoo. Okay. So number 3, I know that I always joke that all of my numbers can go any way, but I really do feel like I could do 3, 2, 1 today. So I'm really proud of myself. So this one, I think a lot of eyes are going to be on this storyline. It's just really the return of Sean Couturier and Cam Atkinson, being back with the team, being back in the environment. I know that they have been, obviously off-season training, but going from a whole season of not playing to jumping right into things. And you know how John Tortorella runs camp. It's skating, it's hard, it's aggressive, it's very physically draining. And it's really going to you're going to be able to gain some sort of perspective of how prepared they're going to be to jump into the season. I'm glad that we have about a month's time before the regular season really does kick off, but being at that team's pace, having all of these elements kind of added back in after, not playing for a whole season, it's going to be interesting. And you want them to kind of jump right out and be the players that you remember them, but it's going to take some time. But just having their faces on the ice, in the locker room, they're great media guys, which is great for us. But yeah, just having them back overall and seeing how, they kind of implement themselves back into this entire regimen with the team. I'm really excited and I'm really happy that they're back. So I think that a lot of eyes are going to be on them.
Yeah, Brooke, I had the same exact one for number 3. Sean Couturier, Cam Atkinson being back.
Always in sync, Jordan Hall.
Always in sync. Great minds think alike, and we are great minds, Brooke. Yes, Sean Couturier and Cam Atkinson, without a doubt. When I was over there at Flyers Training Center the other day for rookie camp, the big club guys were scrimmaging, and there's a ton of guys on the ice for that thing. It's everyone in camp. And the first thing I thought of is Couturier and Atkinson out there. So that's a big storyline. They were both out there. Cam Atkinson feels like himself again. So does Sean Couturier. But the thing I'm really intrigued by, Brooke, and we'll be watching closely, is them in preseason games. They haven't played games in a while. Atkinson missed all of last season. Couturier, come the season opener, he will have not played a game in like 22 months. So I'm really interested to just watch them in season games, see how their body reacts to it, how they feel the next day, and really how they look. How quickly can they get acclimated to game-like style? It's really tough to simulate game action in practice, no matter how hard you skate. You really just got to get into games and get into game shape through playing. So without a doubt, those two guys are big storylines because, Brooke, I think if those two are healthy and looking like themselves again, whenever that may be, the Flyers they're going to be better. They're going to be better than people think. Those two guys are established players. Atkinson was a 40-plus goal scorer at one point in his career. Couturier has scored 30-plus goals twice. He's a Selke trophy winner. I mean, the Flyers will be better than what people think if those two are healthy. And, that could be notable for the rebuild. It could speed things up a little bit, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it's really interesting based off of how they do play, because I think that their performance and how season ready they are plays a lot into what the lineups may look like, because, you really do, you hear those names, Sean Couturier and Cam Atkinson, and you're like, okay, you see them on the top two lines, respectively. But, based off of how they look these next few weeks, the lineups may look really different than what a lot of people anticipate going into the season. And of course, things can change over time, but it's really something interesting to be looking at. And I feel like I touched on this once in the podcast, but I'm going to hit on it again. People really don't realize what a significant blow it was last season to not have either of them on the ice at all. So like you said, having them back in any capacity is really going to help kind of propel this rebuild forward, maybe a little faster than what a lot of people had anticipated, which is, obviously good. You don't want to be sitting here and you're like, all right, here we go again. We're 2 to 3 years away from being 2 to 3 years away to being 2 to 3 years away. Tale as old as time, death, taxes, and Flyers rebuild. You don't want that. So, hopefully things do speed up, and it's going to be great having them back in that environment as a whole, and so huge for a lot of the prospects and the younger guys too.
Yeah, and from the human element of it, it's just nice to see them out there. They're good guys. They've worked hard throughout their career. I think they deserve to be on the ice. So it's nice to see them on the ice, smiling, feeling good again. And I think if they do experience any health hiccups throughout the year, the Flyers will take a serious step back. I think that's what happened in the offseason was they lost a lot of big names, veteran guys, Kevin Hayes, Tony DeAngelo, Ivan Provorov, Justin Braun retired. So they are getting younger right now, and if you lose those two guys at some point, I think the Flyers will take a real step back in this rebuild. But we'll see where it goes and how their bodies respond in camp and in the preseason and in the regular season when that does come. Catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone, including a great sports book. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Brooks, second storyline in your eyes. What are you looking for?
Yeah, so again, I feel like all of my storylines are kind of stating the obvious, but that, everybody's going to be talking about them, so let's talk about them. Backup goaltender. Where is that going to go this season? You kind of have the full expectation that, you're rolling with Carter Hart. That's the vibe. Hooray, hurrah. We have our goalie. But the last thing I want is to kind of have this fear of kind of having this carousel of backup goaltenders again. So I'm really interested to see there's 5 other goaltenders aside from Carter Hart that were invited into camp, and 2 very familiar names with Felix Sandstrom and Samuel Ersson. We have Cal Peterson coming in, which he was acquired from the 3-team trade that moved Ivan Provorov to Columbus. We have Nolan Meyer, who was a camp invite, who's still kind of in the organization. He's more of a Reading ECHL player. There we go. But he did have a little stint in Lehigh Valley last season. And then we have the newest draft pick with Carson Bjarnason, who was drafted in the second round this past draft. So lots of very interesting elements.
Yeah.
Again, I feel like I hate being that person, but I just don't think that Felix Sandstrom is going to be it. So I think that there's rightful competition there that you see with probably Ersson and Peterson. But you don't really know. But Hart's had his fair share of, minor stinted injuries throughout the past few seasons, and you want to be able to have somebody reliable in net. So I think that there's going to be some healthy competition there.
Yeah, definitely a competition to watch for sure. It feels like it could go many ways, as you mentioned, Brooke. To me, it looks like Cal Peterson is the front runner just naturally because of his experience, because of his contract. But you got to think Samuel Ersson's really going to push. I mean, John Tortorella really liked him during the year whenever he was up. And Ersson opened some eyes, and they signed him to that extension this summer. So it seems like the organization is high on him, believes he can compete.
They want him around.
Yeah. But I wonder if in a perfect world, perhaps Peterson is healthy and good to go, and he's that backup because he's got the games of experience at the NHL level. And Ersson, once again, is really the guy in Lehigh Valley. Let him go and be the number one, play really well for that team, and be ready to go and when things happen. Because as you mentioned, Brooke, injuries do happen. Carter Hart has dealt with a number of injuries, little nagging things. And, as we've seen not long ago, I think it was 2018-19, the Flyers played 8 goalies in one season. So
the carousel of goaltenders. That was terrifying.
Yep. Happened in net. It's a weird position. Injuries happen. So I think Ersson's going to be ready to go. And Brooke, I'm with you. It looks like Ersson has leapfrogged Felix Sandstrom to me in the organizational depth chart. But still a guy that's worth watching. And Carson Bjarnason, a young guy that I think the organization's high on, thinks there's potential there. So maybe we'll see if he gets a game before he heads back to his junior team. It should all be fun to watch.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just think I always laugh when I talk about goaltenders because I just think you have to be an absolute psychopath to want to be a goalie because it's like one of the most intense positions across the board in all of sports.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say. It's insane. But psychopathic in a good way, like obviously,
yeah.
I'm not saying they're crazy, but they're crazy. I think there'll be good, healthy competition. And regardless of where everybody starts, there's obviously the end goal. Everybody in this organization, even outside of, the goalies, know that they're in this rebuild and it's going to take some time, and you're probably going to shuffle around a lot of different players throughout the season. If things aren't working, throw the pasta at the wall and see what sticks,
No, it's always the goalies in Philadelphia, right? It's always goaltending in Philadelphia.
Always.
So
always.
Without a doubt, that is a storyline to watch come training camp on Thursday and throughout the preseason, which goalies get games, how they fare. As we saw, Samuel Ersson played really well in the preseason last year, and that really won people over. I think it opened John Tortorella's eyes and really had people thinking, whoa, Ersson looks healthy and could be a really good goalie this season. And he turned out to have a really good year for Lehigh and saw games with the Flyers. So we can see where that goes for sure. Brooke, for me, number 2, I'm looking at Emil Andre, and can he work his way into the defensive picture? I think everyone is very high on him. Diminutive defenseman, smaller guy, but competes his tail off, very good offensively, and he's played at the highest pro level in Sweden for a couple years. He shined at the World Juniors in 2022, and he's looking like he could be a piece to their rebuild on the back end. And I think a lot of people in-house want to see him with some NHL players. But the Flyers got some veterans in the offseason on defense. Mark Stahl, Sean Walker, they have Nick Seeler. Of course, we know they have Cam York, Ristolainen, and Sanheim. And Igor Zamula is no longer waivers exempt. So Andre's really going to have to
Yeah.
open eyes and win a job. I think he's going to have to literally force the hand of the Flyers front office and coaching staff, but a lot of people think he could do that. So I really think a lot of eyes should be on him, how he fares in the preseason games. Does he look like he belongs? And can he make the Flyers have to make a tough decision? My gut tells me, Brooke, that he's going to maybe open in Lehigh Valley, get some games down there. He only has, I think, 10 or 13 games, 10 games with the Phantoms, 3 playoff games with the Phantoms under his belt. So maybe they get him down to the Phantoms, have him play some AHL games, and then see if he can get his NHL debut later in the year. But where do you think that could go?
Yeah, so he is genuinely one of the prospects going into camp that I am so excited to finally see in person. Yeah, so that aside, like you said, there's a lot of high expectations when it comes to Andre, and I do agree. I do think that he starts off in Lehigh. Like you said, though, just to kind of really get accustomed to playing, getting more implemented within the organization as a whole, getting used to how the systems run. And I think that he would benefit having some more time under Ian LaPerriere. I think Lappy's taken leaps and bounds when it comes to seeing how he's evaluated the prospects and the younger players within the organization the past few seasons. And I think that you kind of owe him a lot of credit to that. And I don't think that he's gotten that recognition as of late. And I just think that maybe, a couple more games with Lehigh would be really beneficial for him, just because, it's all so new. It's crazy when you're coming and switching leagues in different countries, just getting more familiarized with every single aspect is going to help him more than I think people realize. So, but in just terms of camp, I'm so excited to finally be able to watch him in person. So he'll be really really fun to watch his career kind of begin and take off.
Yeah, I feel like he's been a guy of intrigue because, as you mentioned, Brooke, we haven't seen him in person a ton. Playing in Sweden throughout his development as a prospect obviously makes it tough for fans over here, reporters over here to watch him, to see him. So now you actually have him in North America, and you're going to be watching him live and really for the first time or the first couple of times. So everyone was excited to see him in the rookie game on Saturday. He looked like a guy that's been playing pro hockey for a while, and now we get a chance to watch him with the big boys in camp and kind of see where he stacks up among the rest. Brooke, your first storyline, your biggest storyline, who you taking?
Yes. So it's a pretty good segue from Andre to my number one. I want to see the prospects in general kind of recover from what we saw from the rookie game. Not that it was, super doom gloom disappointing, but I think that, and you had mentioned this in something that you had written for the website for NBC Sports Philly, that you got a lot of wake-up calls for some of those top names. And you kind of felt like it was a really underwhelming performance in terms of the rookie camp. And I'm really just hoping in general you just see the prospects as a whole kind of, have that little light the fire under them, be like, I need to do better. I need to be better. We're facing off against other prospects, the New York Rangers farm system. And, now we're going to be with the big guys, like that they're well established in the organization within the league. And we need to make our names known that we want to be here too. I think one of my favorite elements of watching the rookie games is really seeing certain players look like they don't belong in a good way. Like they look too advanced. They look like they're 3 to 4 steps ahead of every other player, every other game, every other play. And I really feel like for the most part, Emil Andre really set that bar. And I would like to see, like Tyson Forrester and Bobby Brink and everybody else kind of really elevate that and just bring a whole new level to training camp as opposed to rookie camp. So we can look at them and be like, well, where the heck was this 2 weeks ago? You know?
There seemed to be some debate about rookie games and how much they matter. How important are they? Say what you want about rookie games, but it's a game of prospects, and you want to see your top prospects stand out. That's just the nature of it. Noah Cates last year looked like he didn't even belong in the rookie games. And what happened? He won a job out of training camp, and he played all 82 games for the Flyers as a rookie. So, yeah, it was definitely a little underwhelming to not see Forster, who many people view as like a top 50 prospect in the NHL, not score, not record a point, and kind of blend in. Is it going to ruin his camp or his chances? No. Can he rebound from it in his career? Yes. The rookie game is not going to derail his career.
No.
It would have been nice to see him perform a little bit better. And I think that's why LaPerriere came out and said he was disappointed that these guys are pushing for the big team and they weren't able to produce in a couple of rookie games. And that had the Flyers' entire front office there. Their coaching staff was there. Tortorella was there on Friday night. He watched it on TV Saturday night. I saw a number of the Flyers' assistant coaches. We saw the front office, Keith Jones, Dan Hilferty. I mean, people were watching these games. And I think that's why LaPerriere was disappointed. He wanted his guys that he had been praising, he wanted to see them stand out a little bit more. So, I think that's a huge storyline, right? To see how these prospects rebound. And is it kind of a kick in the butt for them come camp?
I feel like while it's a super generalized storyline, they're the future of the organization. So yes, it takes the number one priority for me. No, I'm not going to harp on one specific prospect because I was a little underwhelmed at the rookie game. So I really hope that, starting tomorrow when camp starts on Thursday, you just see certain players and prospects step up and rise to the occasion instead of, kind of crumbling under the pressure of, kind of falling short on the rookie game, which I don't think that that's going to happen. I genuinely don't. It could be nerves. It could be a plethora of things, but it'll just be really fun to see. And then mixing them in with the big guys, it's always so fun to see how chemistry kind of unravels, and it's, expect the unexpected with training camp. You really don't know what to expect, especially going into this, whatever this season is going to be, which is, it's a rebuild. It's a rebuild, but you just, set the bar on the floor and you won't be disappointed.
Brooke, as you said, it's a rebuild. So what makes a rebuild intriguing is prospects. I mean, that's the future. The Flyers keep harping on the future and their youth and how they want to get younger and how they feel they're getting younger through the draft. Well, Tyson Forster is one of their top prospects, so absolutely big storyline. Brooke, he's my number one storyline. Can he make the roster and can he make the opening night lineup? I think he's got a real fighter's chance. I think a lot of people in the organization want to see him there. Ian LaPerriere said before rookie camp that he doesn't expect to see Forster in Lehigh Valley. And LaPerriere said that last year about Noah Cates. He turned out to be right. We'll see if he's right about Forster. He really opened the eyes of John Tortorella last year in that 8-game audition. And he's going to have to push someone out. I think, can he, one, make the roster, and then two, to make the lineup, I think he's going to have to maybe force Wade Allison into being an extra forward, or maybe one of the veteran forwards an extra forward. That's kind of where he stands. I don't think the Flyers want him to make the roster, but be a potential extra. Obviously, they want their kids playing.
Right, exactly.
It's kind of twofold. Can he make the roster, which I think he's got a nice shot to if he scores some goals and stands.
But they're not going to have him sitting on that bench. They would rather have him in Lehigh.
Exactly. So who can he unseat in the lineup, I think will be a massive storyline too, really worth watching, because Wade Allison's going to be working hard and wanting to show what he can do. So the competition's there, and that's exciting. I think that's what camp's all about, is prospects pushing some of the more established guys and seeing how it unfolds. So Tyson Forster, for me, really one of the biggest storylines, if not the biggest, in this training camp, Brooke.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a camp like we've stressed really for the past 10 minutes now. Everything, you got eyes on the prospects. You really do. it really kind of spearheads how quickly this kind of rebuild is going to take place. Yes, it's great that we have the veterans and Sean Couturier and Cam Atkinson coming back, but if the farm system isn't living up to the expectations that you set in the beginning of this rebuild, you kind of are in this weird limbo that you do not want to be a part of. Like, you want to build. It's a rebuild, not float through the weird middle ground.
Yeah.
I don't want that. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be exciting. I just think I think it's really telling to see that you kind of notice that the fans have really taken to this new era of Orange. I look back to rookie camp right after the draft, and I haven't seen the skate zone look like that in a very long time. It was packed with fans, and I just think that was a really great nod to everybody notices that change is happening now, and they believe it, and they believe in the team, in the front office, in the organization. And it'll be really exciting to see what the outcome is, with fans as camp does begin. I just think it's, again, while it is a rebuild and the expectations are really low, at the same time, they're not. And I think that fans are really going to enjoy the season more than they think. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it seems like Keith Jones and Danny Briere have pressed a lot of the right buttons so far. They're really valuing the fans and doing a lot of good things to, I think, win back some fans. But to me, the offseason is also very much the honeymoon stage. They haven't played a game yet. They haven't made a decision yet. They haven't lost a game yet. They haven't won a game yet. These were a few beloved former Flyers. Keith Jones held in high regard among the fans and people within the organization. Same with Danny Briere. So very much the honeymoon stage for those two. But I think things will start to ramp up and they'll start to feel the heat a little bit from fans. When maybe something doesn't go well, how do they react to it? It's all going to be worth watching. I think it's really going to be an interesting season because there's so much newness to it. And the rebuild is pretty daunting. It's see where it goes. How quickly can it pick up, or does it take a step back? All worth watching here this season. And we'll have it all covered, Brooke.
Yes, we will.
Talk podcast. Brooke Destra, thank you so much. As always, great seeing you, great chatting with you. Can't wait to read your work on the website and have you on the podcast so much more as training camp picks up. A big thank you to Ben Berry, our podcast producer and guru, for always being flexible with our time. And Flyers fans, of course, as always, thank you so much for listening to the latest Flyers Talk podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, please rate and listen, and we can't wait to talk to you next time.